Hey everyone, welcome back to Pick Six, the NFL betting preview show out of the Full Football Podcast. My name is Ollie, and I'm joined by my co-host Liam, as always. And we are delighted this week to be joined by Stay Hot pod member and content creator for PFN365 Theo Ash. Theo, how are things going? And did you enjoy the regular season?
Things are going well, and I quite enjoyed this regular season, but it's nice to cut down on the amount of teams there are to worry about. I'm glad that the fat has kind of burned off and we're in the playoffs now, and makes I feel like these kinds of picks a lot easier because there's just less noise out there.
Yeah, very true. Well, there are two playoff teams in this group. My Broncos, your Packers. Unfortunately, Liam's Bengals did fall a little bit short this weekend, thanks to the Kansas City Chiefs. But without further ado, Liam, do you want to get us kicked off with your first game prop?
I will, mate, and I'll kick off with the play of the week as well for myself. Going to go to Monday night, take the Vikings on the money line there. Got 20 to 23. I think that's like minus 102, I think, or something like that. I just think it's a little bit of a slight overreaction from sort of everyone. I think this opens sort of two and a half, maybe three Vikings, and it has been bet down on the Rams. I think that's purely because the last game everyone watched was the Vikings lay a bit of an egg against the Lions. But I mean, Lions are probably the best team in the league at the moment. And Vikings still won 14 games in the regular season and took the Lions to week 18 to win the division. So, yes, Sam Darnold had a bad game. But again, Aaron Glenn is the talk. Well, him and Ben Johnson talk of the town for next head coaches in the NFL. I just think the Vikings will have enough here to win well, maybe in LA, maybe I think I saw it might be played in Arizona, obviously because of the fires at the moment. But yeah, we will take the Vikings on the money line.
Theo, do you want to give your first game prop?
Yeah, I like the Chargers, the spread of minus 2.5. I just think that Houston is the worst team in the playoff field. Having guys like Stroud and Nico Collins and the edge rushers they've got, it's certainly a formidable looking team on paper. But when you run into the offensive line problems that they have, it's just tough to see a path to victory. It's been so bad. The offense has been so bad, the worst in the playoffs. So I think that they have a chance to get beat pretty soundly by a team that's not, a powerhouse by any means in the Chargers. But I think they can win this game and win it by more than a field goal or a field goal or more.
I will join you on the Chargers as my player of the week as well. Yeah, Texans worst points differential out of any of the remaining playoff teams, and they have the worst record versus any of the playoff teams remaining. They benefited from winning what was a very poor division. Half their wins were against the rest of their division, um, and they've beaten a lot of backup QBs recently. It's safe to say their one sort of good win in October over the Bills feels very much like the exception, not the rule. And the Chargers, I believe they have the second worst points differential out of the playoff teams, but they've sort of hit form at an okay time. Texans, since week 12, ranked 26 in offensive EPA per play. And obviously, they're up against a very good Chargers defense. I think yeah, I just agree. It feels like Chargers by a field goal or more in this game. And I think if it was at SoFi, the line would probably be flipped. But yeah, Chargers also 5-0 against the spread in their last five on the road.
Ooh, interesting.
I will keep it in that game, guys. I will take the under though. Chargers always been a good under team, especially under this season. Um, yeah, they're two offenses I'm not completely sold on. Obviously, Justin Herbert is a great quarterback. CJ Stroud probably is a great quarterback as well, but it's just having a bit of a down year. Um, but I see the strength for both teams in the defenses. And yeah, when it comes to playoff football, just think the under makes sense here. So under 42 and a half points for me.
I like that. The Texans' offensive line and the Chargers' receiving room are probably the two worst
Yeah.
overall units in the entire playoffs.
I think the Broncos receiving room might push them close though.
Fair. Maybe the Broncos quarterback room as well.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Oh,
Let's
hey,
not get ahead of
whoa.
ourselves.
Fair enough.
Did you want to give your next pick, Theo?
Yeah, yeah. I'll go back to Rams versus Vikings. I like the over there. Um, I think both of these receiving rooms are pretty high powered, and the corner rooms on the other side just don't have anybody who can really cover these stars. I feel like Puka Nacua, Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson. Last time these two teams played, it was 30-20, 50 points total. The over under is 47 and a half here. I think we can see a game that is at least as high scoring as the last one was. And I do agree that Darnold is going to return to form a little bit. Whether that nets him a win, I don't know. But I don't think he is going to be, missing absolutely everything like he was in that Week 18 game. I think the Vikings offense is going to rebound.
Now, I promise we haven't spoken about this before, but I am also taking the over in this game. So we are 2-2 on picks at the moment. But yeah, I mean, I agree. Obviously, the game earlier in the season was high scoring. And since week 12, that sort of crucial time where teams really start to get into gear. Rams defense, bottom 10 in defensive EPA. And the Vikings, actually, their defense has sort of slipped a little bit too. They're a lot closer to the sort of middle of the road teams than they are to the top. Obviously, the Brian Flores defense is still very good, but it has slipped. They've been giving up points and they have been scoring points as well. So I think
Mm-hmm.
the key maybe for me in this game is that it is going to be pass heavy. Both teams struggle to run the ball efficiently. Aaron Jones has been about par, and then Kyron Williams, he gets a lot of touches, but he's not always the most efficient. And yeah, Rams, like we said, they've not been at their maybe efficient offensive best recently. They had a few sort of low scoring games, but just feels like it might be a return to form this one. Yeah, over 47 and a half feels good to me.
The Rams remind me a little bit of how Green Bay is built, like a positive kind of gunslinging quarterback, similar schemes, strengths and weaknesses. I feel like, and both Packers games went way over 47 and a half. So I feel like this one's got a, and the Rams game before went over 47 and a half. It just doesn't feel like the Brian Flores defense is any kind of lock to create a low scoring game. I mean, they can create turnovers, but that doesn't necessarily correlate with not putting points on the board sometimes if the field goal, the field position gets flipped so drastically.
Yep.
Yeah, I did look at that myself, but taking the over the Vikings week 18 sort of scared me off. So I'll give them a week off for that. I'll take them to win. My final match prop, I'm gonna take the Ravens minus the 9.5. Got it at 10-11. They're just coming into these playoffs, just playing playing lights out. I mean, I think Lamar's the MVP. I think a lot of people do as well. The defense is a lot better than it was in the first sort of quarter half of the season. And then the Steelers are just in the complete opposite direction. They've lost four on the bounce. The offense is not clicking. Whatever's going on with George Pickens needs to get sorted out, especially for Saturday night. But yeah, I just think the Ravens are going to be too much. I know it's a divisional game. They know each other well. But yeah, I just can't see the Steelers keeping up here. So Ravens minus 9.5.
I like that. I like that. I've got an alternate spread. I'm bumping the Eagles up a little bit to plus odds to cover a 6.5 point spread against the Packers. I love my Packers. And I think if Christian Watson was healthy, they might have a chance. But I just don't know how I see a win here with him out. The offense is so explosive with him out there. And without him out there, it's just not. And we've seen that the last 2 weeks, just kind of struggling to pick up big chunks and struggling to um, move the football very efficiently. Jordan Love hasn't been on his A game really since the Saints game, I'd say, or since before the Saints game. And the Eagles, they just have so many stars: Saquon Barkley, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. It doesn't look like Jair Alexander will play. I think the Packers corners will be tested in a way that they really haven't been. And don't necessarily think that Nixon, Stokes, and Carrington Valentine will be up to that test. And I don't know if the Packers will put points on the board. Maybe deep down, this is a bit of a reverse jinx for me. I'm an emotional hedge, but I'm just not feeling bullish on the Packers whatsoever going into this 2 versus 7 seed game.
Well, I am relieved that we don't have the same here. I do have a problem in this game, though. I'm taking the under 45 and a half. Yeah, for a lot of reasons you mentioned, really. Christian Watson, I think, is a massive miss. I'm always a little uneasy taking unders in general, but the facts of the matter are that these are actually two defenses that have been pretty lights out recently. Eagles have allowed over 20 points just twice since October. And I believe the Packers, since week 12, I don't know if you know, Theo, how much did turnovers contribute to EPA
For on offense or defense,
on defense? Sorry.
probably a lot. Probably a
Yeah.
lot. I mean, throughout the entire season, they've been a lot better from an EPA perspective than a success rate perspective. Xavier
Mm.
McKinney is a league leader in turnovers right now, or interceptions. Yeah, it has a lot to do with being able to create havoc and turnovers as opposed to consistency. They don't get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. They don't get a lot of sacks, and because of that, it's somewhat easy to beat them.
Yeah, well, I was about to say both teams do rank in the top six in the league for takeaways. And maybe the crucial thing here, converse to the Vikings and the Rams, is that both teams are pretty good at running the ball. Obviously, Saquon Barkley's had this unbelievable season where he's gone for 2,000 yards. Yeah, they're both top 10 for rush EPA per play. And the Eagles do just love a drive that drains sort of 10, 11 minutes off the clock. I know we saw the Eagles Steelers game where there was 10 minutes left in the quarter and Russ didn't even get the ball back. So,
both
yeah,
of
I
these
don't
teams, both of
go.
these teams love that. They're numbers 1 and 2 in interior rushes, yards per game. So that doesn't really sound like a very high scoring affair to me.
No, and I do agree. I think the Eagles will probably end up winning, and probably quite handedly as well. So there's even sort of more probability they're going to control the time of possession. And
Mm,
just a little tidbit: the Green Bay away games in Philadelphia, notoriously low scoring, under in 8 of the last 11.
interesting.
Right, let's go on to the player props. I've got a couple of running backs here. I'll start off. Yeah, I'll just go with the game we were just speaking about. Got Saquon Barkley down here. Obviously, incredible season, as you just said, 2,000 yards. I'm taking his receiving yards. It's 10.5. Bit of a real shot in the dark. Not much, not with data to back me up here. I mean, it just seems short for how explosive a player he is. Thinking the sort of angle I'm taking here is they're going to ease Jalen Hurts back in. Obviously, he's not played for 3 weeks. Running game, play action, screen game, and hopefully, yeah, Saquon can benefit from the play action and screen game. So, yeah, over 10.5 receiving yards for Saquon.
I like that. I like that. I've got something kind of similar. It's Justice Hill over 8.5 rushing yards. It's his first game back since he got concussed in Pittsburgh the last time these two teams played, and he did it breaking off a pretty long run. He had 2 carries for 30 yards. And I just think when he's out there, the gravity of Lamar becomes so much greater because like Derrick Henry isn't the threat to receive the ball. So you run some zone read, and I think these Pittsburgh linebackers are kind of prone to really focusing on Lamar. And I think it just could take 1 or 2 carries for Justice Hill to get over 8.5 yards on the ground. So that's again kind of a shot in the dark. But against Pittsburgh, he's hit it. So I'm going with that kind of little dink of a prop.
Yeah, nice, nice, nice.
Very nice. I will kick us off with my one and only homer pick of these props. I'm taking sneaky athletic Bo Nix longest rush over 11 and a half yards.
Ooh,
Obviously, he's gone over this total in 9 games this year, and since the week 14 bye, I think he's been carrying it a lot more, to be fair. He's had 25 carries. Broncos looking to utilize his speed, which I mean people call him sneak athletic, but he is genuinely quite rapid.
Mhm.
So yeah, feels like a pretty good spot. He had a monster run last week where I don't know if you saw he tried to lateral the ball
Oh yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
Javonte Williams, but it was ruled forward. I would have the rule of cool should have come into play there. I think that was a pretty awesome play. And I do think also the Broncos are probably going to end up throwing a lot. And I think, yeah, as the more Bo drops back, gets the happy feet in the pocket, there is more potential for him to scramble. So yeah,
Mhm.
give me Knicks to get 12 yards as the longest rush.
I like all the QB rushing overs. I think in the playoffs, guys are more prone to tuck it.
Yeah, maybe another one from me coming soon. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to do it, but I'm going to say you're going to say Jaden Daniels, but I might as well go to that game now. I've got another running back receptions this time. I've gone Austin Eckler. It's plus money here, 23 to 20, over 2.5 receptions. Now, outside of Jaden Daniels, Washington seemed to struggle to run the ball. Brian Robinson, his sort of numbers haven't been up there, whether it's the offensive line or it's the opponents they're playing. He obviously started the season off very well. Eckler's just come back. He had a few nice plays against Dallas last week. Um, and I can't see much sort of running through the middle, especially with the Bucks defensive tackles. Vita Vea and Kalijah Cansey are two very good ones. So yeah, I think the running game will come from Jaden Daniels. But then it also similar to how the Bengals run the ball. Well, yeah, I put run in sort of apostrophes. It is just dump off to the running backs. And Austin Eckler has been probably one of the best receiving backs across the league in the last sort of 5, 6 years, especially with his touchdown numbers. So yeah, I like a bit of plus money here. Eckler to have over 2.5 catches.
I like that. The Bucks defense allows more yards per game to running backs and tight ends than any other defense. I think it's because they kind of disguise their blitzes so much that it kind of creates maybe some vacancies kind of underneath, and they have been hurt 100% by dump offs to kind of those auxiliary targets.
That's good to know. Yeah, that's didn't have that information, but that certainly
Hey,
works in my favor. Yeah.
it does. It does. I like that. I've got Puka Nakua. I kind of mentioned this earlier, over 88.5 receiving yards, which is absolutely a ton of receiving yards to hit the over. But he's done it in 7 of his 10 games since coming back from injury. He did it against the Vikings back when they played in week 8. He's on an absolute tear. Whenever I look at the advanced analytics, it seems like Puka is the best wide receiver in the league these days. Like, I don't think he's actually better than Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson, but after those guys and maybe AJ Brown, you can start to slot Puka Nakua in there. He's been money for them. He had 180 yards in his playoff debut last year. Like I said, maybe Byron Murphy can cause me to eat my words a little bit, but I just don't think the Vikings have anybody who can consistently guard him. And it's just hard to get a good matchup on him anyway because of what McVay does with him. So Puka having a huge game in the playoffs, over 88.5 receiving yards. That's my second prop.
Yeah, I was looking at Cooper Cup's line in this game because it's so low. I was almost tempted to take it, but I mean, the last three games, I think he's had like 8 targets, 4 receptions for like 70 yards total. So he's more like almost like a blocking receiver these days. But yes, I am taking another longest rush prop, and it is indeed Jaden Daniels, 14 and a half yards, taking the over. Yeah, he's gone over this line in 5 of his last 6 games, and he cleared it in the week 1 matchup between these two teams. He's actually got a higher rush prop, longest rush prop than either running back, which I think speaks volumes to not only how sort of average the Commanders' running game is, but also Tampa Bay's defense. There's been sort of lights out on the running game in the final third of the season. They're top for EPA per play on rush defense, which I guess is good and bad because maybe Daniels can't get as many rush yards as he wants, but ultimately I think the Commanders are going to end up throwing it a lot. This game's got massive shootout potential. Um, it's going to be a lot of throwing, and yeah, they're going to have the scramble plays for Jaden Daniels as well as the designed runs. So yeah, I think 15 yards on a scramble or even a sort of designed uh, read. Sounds good to me. So yeah, over 14 and a half longest rush for Jaden Daniels.
I
My
also
point.
have a, or
Oh,
sorry,
no, go on, go on.
I also have a Jaden prop, which is just his total rushing yards over, which is 48 and a half in this game. And I just think he's going to hit it. He averaged 77 yards per game in the month of December. I agree there's going to be a lot of dropping back, which means a lot of scrambling for Daniels. Just the Washington offense averages 56 and a half QB rushing yards per game. This is under that. And I think he's going to hit it in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think he had a massive game against them. I know it was obviously his first game. But I think he might have gone for 100 against them in week one.
I think it was like
I
80,
remember
yeah.
sort of seeing it. Yeah, 80 or something like that. Yeah. That was very tempting for me to take. But no, I'll go my final prop. Um, and it is in the Denver game. Yeah, it's the only one I haven't done. Yeah, Denver game. Same receiver as I picked last week. We're going Marvin Mims. Is over in receiving. I believe this line opened about 41, 42. Has been bet down to 37, which is actually what his line closed at against the Chiefs. So I'll gladly just jump on board here at the lower number. Against the Chiefs, he cleared it. I'm pretty sure it was his first catch. It was like a screen, and he ran for 30, and he caught it, and then ran for 38 yards for a touchdown. So that was one of the easiest bets I've ever placed. But yeah, we'll keep it going here. 37 and a half receiving yards. Again at 9 point spread. Although I think it will be a close game. I can't see Denver trying to control the ball in the running game. So once again, maybe the quick screen game. Mims is pretty lethal at that. So yeah, happily take his receiving yards, 37 and a half with the over. Wouldn't mind him for a touchdown either at 5 to 2. That looks pretty good value.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's going to be catching probably at least four or five at the line of scrimmage and then just trying to house it, which is
Yeah,
basically sort of the Sean Payton Bo Nix way for 65% of the game until the big plays become open anyway. Um, I'll finish off the picks then with Lad McConkey over 5.5 receptions. Now, this guy, I mean, coming into the year, you had the sort of very inaccurate comparisons to basically every wide receiver that's ever played the game. But he is a legit wide receiver one, full route tree, and he's been the Chargers' best skill player by distance this year. He's gone over this line in five of his last seven, and for some reason, Quentin Johnston is getting more targets than him in recent weeks. But obviously, Lad McConkey is far more reliable than Quentin Johnston, who averages at least I think it was like 1 point something drops a game. He's not the guy that Justin Herbert needs to be throwing the ball to. And yeah, as I mentioned before, I do think this would probably be one of the closer games of the weekend. I do think the Chargers are going to win. But yeah, I fancy McConkey sort of like Puka Nacua did his introduction to the playoffs. I think he's going to have a pretty big game. And I was close between this and his receiving line, which I think is only 72 and a half. But I'm a little bit worried about how he would get an explosive play. Obviously, Derek Stingley lining up against him in the back in the as a defensive back. Yeah, so I think receptions is probably just about the play here, but I would also encourage his receiving yards line as well. Okay, cool. There we go. Those are the picks for this week. Liam, if you want to go through yours again quickly, just so we have them all in one place.
yeah. So I went Vikings money line play of the week. Chargers, Texans under 42.5, and Ravens minus 9.5. Saquon Barkley over 10.5 receiving yards, Austin Eckler over 2.5 receptions, and Marvin Mims over 37.5 receiving yards.
Very nice. Theo, do you want to go through yours again? And is there a sort of a pick that you value above the others?
Yeah, I've got the pick of the week for me would be the Chargers minus 2.5. And then I've got the over in Rams versus Vikings, Eagles minus 6.5, Justice Hill over 8.5 rushing yards, Puka over 88.5, and Jaden Daniels over 48.5 rushing yards.
Very nice. Chargers -2.5 is also my play of the week. And I've got the Vikings and the Rams going over the 47.5. Packers versus Eagles under 45.5. Bo Nix, longest rush over 11.5 yards. Jaden Daniels, longest rush over 14.5 yards. And Lad McConkey over 5.5 receptions. And there we go. Those are the picks in the books. Theo, thank you very much for joining us. Much appreciated having you on.
Thanks for having me.
Liam, thanks to you as well for coming on, as always.
Yep. Yep.
Uh,
Always fun.
Everyone else, thank you for listening and catch you in the next one.